Hello and welcome! It's May 2021 and we have a Star Citizen Persistent Universe monthly report looking at what Cloud Imperium have been working on over the last few weeks and what they're focused on now. Let's check out gameplay features that they've been working on first. The weapons team continued to move the standalone Great Hat tools through the pipeline, with the tractor beam going into final art and the salvage tool going through white box. We should see these later this year. They also iterated on medical tools alongside the UI design teams who progressed with the wider feature work for medical gameplay. To support the next iteration of player inventory, the team spent part of April working on several UI features. Significant work went into the ability to drag and drop items between the player character and other local inventories. Further information was added to tell the player what can go along with feedback when specific interactions are blocked. One challenge is dealing with attachments, for example moving a pistol between leg armor and an undersuit. They also looked into the handling of an inventory stored inside another inventory, which led to them creating multiple windows for players to move items between, scenarios like the player dropping the backpack off their character while having the inventory open. The features team said one small detail which is going to be quite neat is the player character performing an unstow animation if the user places an item directly into their character's hands. Another related area investigated last month is the player leaving a lootable body behind upon death. For now, this will be achieved by creating a body copy or imposter and transferring ownership of the player's items to the copy. This leaves the original player entity free to respawn and able to return to their corpse to retrieve their items. This also required logic to copy the pose and physical state of the original model and ragdoll. This still requires polish to make the transition seamless, but the feature will add a new dimension when implemented in the future. Little bodies equals win. Work also continued on the player asset manager, with engineers creating the initial building block system and the provider that manages a majority of the application logic. The provider and building blocks will be connected via a UI binding, which will let the team pull in essential data they wish to show. Meanwhile, the UI design created concepts for the layout of the app, which will be reviewed and edited before a final design is chosen. Planning continued for an upcoming cargo refactor mentioned the last month, with engineering planning how that's all going to work, which is now in review. They're going to break down all of the work into tasks before building that extensive new system out. Internal testing of the next dynamic event is currently underway as well, with minor changes being made daily following feedback from QA. Mission features spent some time focusing on Invictus launch week. The team also developed spawn closets, working on underground facilities as a proof of concept alongside what's being used on the Javelin. Mission features also began supporting hospitals with a refactor of spawning, which had become fragmented as prisons, criminal spawns, and medbeds were added. An update to friendly logic and splash damage was made. As long as players do more damage to enemies than friendlies, they won't be punished for any accidental damage caused. However, they will still receive crime stats if more serious crimes are committed. This will be most noticeable when using an EMP, so players should still be careful not to cause more friendly damage when firing. More AI was added to caves, but they also revisited cave missions, improving AI patrol paths, adding harvestables and minables, and making a general sort of bug sweep. Air traffic control systems were also sort of made more bug-free, and they made some minor improvements. They looked at some of the existing Caterpillar derelicts and added additional variations to give a more claustrophobic feel and to introduce the use of tractor beams and trolleys. The longer distance quantum sensitive delivery mission was revisited too, with balance tweaks made to the rewards. They also started to prototype and plan out some future release features with a focus on Comore missions to help improve and expand PvP gameplay. This involved working on the aforementioned spawn closets in the underground facilities as a proof of concept for the new tech coming online later this quarter. The Systemic Services and Tools team wrapped up the latest version of the economy and AI simulation tools that control the wider game economy. The prototyping of new services, including one for celestial body positioning and one for accurate tracking of important NPCs, were completed. They also completed service work to pass ship names between the dedicated game servers and platform, though they're still investigating edge cases as time permits. Narrative worked on improvements to the reputation system, as well as on a wide range of narrative content, including Jump Point magazine for subscribers, new Galacticopedia entries, the latest Mining Rocks newsletter from Shubin, the first installment of A Gift from Baba, the story of the Crusader Moons and how they got their name, and some brand new feature stuff, lawmakers, community questions, where the narrative team provide insight into questions pulled from an Ask the Dev section of the forums. A little bit of character stuff. They've been working on tourist and tour guide animations, blockouts for vendors, and the holocreator for an upcoming event. In parallel, the facial team worked on assets for the tourist, tour guide, holocreator, a race announcer, and staggers. Character art teams wrapped up refinery deck assets, while the majority of outfits for Orison and hospitals were modelled and skinned. A few outfits for 3.14 progressed well too. They continued modelling armour coming later in this year and supported an X-ray shader and skeleton model for medical gameplay UIs. Finally, work progressed on backpacks and holographic projections for the physical inventory UI. Environments. So, the landing zone team further developed Orison, which moved into its final stages of production. Other disciplines are currently focusing on closing out the location with all major platforms, shipyard structures, and rings now final art complete. The global composition of the landing zone was also locked down, and transit routes have been finalised, though background platforms are still progressing through the final art phase. The modular team has switched focus back to colonial outposts. The majority of room architecture and props moved into the final art phase. Materials were also finalised, and additional visual add-ons and units were created. A gameplay geometry pass was also done in Greybox to better prepare the modules for combat, which involved exploring alternate routes and cover locations. A combat scenario was tested on a Planet 2, with the team continually making adjustments based on feedback from design. The lighting team moved to predominantly support Orison, with the line of sight being dozens of kilometers away to other platforms. Lighting information needs to be visible at these distances while maintaining high quality lighting on local platforms. This will likely involve a longer period of polish and optimization than in previous landing zones, with plenty of back and forth between lighting individual platforms and the landing zone as a whole. Turbulent finalised their work on Orison and New Babbage hospital maps. The polish phase is nearing completion, with the team preparing to move on to a level of detail pass and bug fixing. Moving forward, part of Turbulent will be focusing on various Grimhex updates, getting that sort of landing zone finished off. The props team continued to make props for the colonial outposts, which involved working closely with the modular locations team to ensure they fit the homestead feel. Props polish for Orison started, most notably on materials for the whale statue, which is a hero asset. Concept props were created for hospitals, including wheelchairs, walkers, an IV stand, and packaging assets for medical goods. They also progressed with the medical bed and gurney, which are nearing completion. The new hospital bed template was rolled out so that hospital beds in ships can use the new gameplay too. Some environment and landing zone specific UIs were created for future releases as well. Let's take a look at some ships, vehicles, and weapon stuff. The US-based vehicle content team and other supporting teams worked hard to complete the release prep phase for the Tumbrel Nova and its last major review. Treads, movement, and gameplay feel were focused on. They have said we are now into a proper QA testing cycle and are working on making sure the polished vehicle and experience are going to make players happy. The Nova tank has been a concerted effort by all, and we're proud of everyone's contributions and are excited to see it go live. Progress was also made on the RSI Constellation Taurus. Last month saw the ship move through the release prep stage with a focus on finishing complicated level of details. White Box was also completed for a highly anticipated ship due to release later this year. We did find out that the Bounty Merchantman, Corsair, and Vulture are all being worked on this year, which are highly anticipated ships, so I'm hyped if it's any of those to actually be released this year too. For ship weapons, a handful of bespoke weapons were developed for some ships featured in an upcoming event. With the weapons team saying, we can't say much more at this point, but a number of bespoke weapons have been given some love to make them sit better with this ship in question. Very exciting there. The vehicle technical team began tying down the radar and scanning system features and focused on testing functionality to ensure a clear and satisfying experience. In support of the Tumbrel Nova, they worked to make it feel and look appropriately tanky by focusing on animation, timing, and wheel service debris. A list of must-fix issues was addressed for Invictus launch week, with work continuing into May to ensure the event runs as smoothly as possible. Ship to station docking progressed, with bugs fixed and release prep work being undertaken. The new thruster wind VFX feature goals include dust plumes created by individual thrusters as they animate and move on the ship, and effects that change depending on the direction of the thruster and the surface it's interacting with. Thruster capacities receive development time in April. When implemented, afterburners will be powered by capacitors that drain very quickly when used. The capacitors will then recharge using the ship's power much more slowly, requiring players to consider firing afterburners carefully. Time was spent on improving head-up display visuals, which will be important for showing information on the various upcoming features such as thruster capacitors and missile operator modes. The VFX team spent part of April making thruster effects more readable at a distance. Being able to see them from further distances is desirable, so various tweaks were made to the effects to make that possible, though the process is still ongoing. New firework effects were created to give the design team a larger library to choose from for various gameplay events, while further progress was made on large-scale destruction events. The Nova's VFX was further polished as well, including its cannon. On the feature side, work continued on thruster wind volumes and how new effects for vehicle pings and radar blobs made progress. Let's take a look at engine stuff. The physics team continues to improve vehicle support, including the steering limit of a neutrally turning tank and the gravity of a free-falling tank. The wheeled vehicle code was further cleaned up too. Engineering continued to work on the Gen 12 renderer, enabling the new Gen 12 renderer path by default and starting the full transition to the new architecture. Most post effects now are running on the Gen 12 version by default. Once the final few are enabled, they'll begin enabling geometry passes. The geometry passes are already partially complete though. There are still some problems to be solved before they start seeing performance gains. Progress was made on Vulkan backend to achieve parity with DirectX 11, which requires a pass over all shaders to remove a handful of legacy DirectX 9 features as well that are no longer supported. Work continued on the volumetric cloud system, with April seeing a pass on efficient empty space skipping in the Ray Marcher. The side distance field generation was further optimized and required a refinement pass, which was implemented. They have some pretty different alien cloud density and configs that they've been working on as well, so they can change all that cloud density and do lots of stuff, so it's not like Earth-like clouds on some of the atmospheres. CPU thread scaling was further improved. Time in April was also dedicated to server meshing. The existing StarHash logic, which is used for server object container streaming, was moved to the network module in preparation for a later move to server meshing services. The asset pipeline was revamped and streamlined for more effective issue tracking too. A couple other little bits. Player Relations announced the launch of the Issue Council 2.0, which improves the team's ability to track, triage, and fix bugs throughout the game. Check out that new website for Issue Council. QA's primary development focus was on testing Invictus launch week, along with another event coming later in the year. Preliminary testing began on Alpha 3.14 features and content, along with performance captures. Boom! That's it for the Persistent Universe monthly report for May. We'll be checking out Squadron 42 and AI updates in the next couple of days as well, separately from this. But what do you think? Are you excited by anything that Cloud Imperium are currently working on? Were you hoping they'd talk about some alien creatures that they didn't talk about here? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below.
Oh, what's this? I just found all your search history online. You filthy boy, buying spaceships and going on Ship Hub. Zin, show a picture of a sexy ship or something. You should have used NordVPN. It's a VPN, obviously, and it has my seal of approval because I shill for them. Use the links below to get a discount and help protect your data, identity, privacy, and to help with online accessibility. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For May, it's for a Crusader Hercules Starlifter. It's a big boy cargo and ground vehicle transport ship that you can expect to be added to the game by the end of the month. Just comment on any of my videos made during the month to be in for a chance of winning that. Thank you so much to my channel members who have pressed the join button below my videos and my Patreons as well. Going the extra mile really, really helps the channel. Say thanks for helping the channel, Zin.
Thanks for helping the channel, Zin.
Consider becoming a channel member or Patreon as well, and maybe you'll get some poorly photoshopped naughty spaceship shots. Ooh, saucy. Thanks for watching and all your support.